Did any of you guys realize that? That I'm sitting here, I'm mooning you? Well, we're getting tuned in here. We get our everybody fine tuning me in, huh? Do I look like a wizard? Because I'm the wizard of imagination. You gotta use your imagination with me. Okay? We're gonna have some fun tonight. As I see people, did Jose just show up?
Jose did, and so did Rosie and Ms. Mortician.
Rosie and Miss Mortician. Boy, you guys are just regulars. I just love you for being here this regular. And I can't get my stupid glasses on. Ah. Well, this is silly. There we go. There we go. Does that look better, everybody? What do you think? Huh? So let's talk about my favorite holiday. Does everybody know what that is? It's Halloween. And I thought we'd kill some time before everybody gets here because not everybody's as polite and loving and fast and stuff. So I want to tell you some stuff that's going on. We're trying to arrange a 2-hour Saturday session because there's rumor, I got to confirm it and everything. There's rumor we're going to have Ms. Cat in the Hat. So we might have Ms. Cat in the Hat for an hour and somebody else for another hour. But we're going to have fun. So everybody plan on being here. And I'll put out the notices as always. We're going to try to get it so we can start at 5. If not, just to make it longer and have more fun. But if not, I'll tell you. You know, I always give you guys a warning. Also, remember everybody, Grandpa Ken is all about kindness. And please remember that. And all your comments and any thoughts that you have to say to us or anybody, we love what you're thinking. We love what you're doing as long as it's kind, because that's all we do here. We don't do anything else other than kindness, fun, and storytelling and reading. And we always sell some t-shirts. Everybody should go check out our new website, grandpakidreadingtime.com. It's really cool. I'm happy with it. And you look like you have something to say, Emmy.
Mochi.
Motif?
Mochi.
Mochi?
Mochi.
Mochi.
Yes.
Hi, Mochi.
From Malaysia.
From Malaysia?
Yes.
Whoa, your arms must be tired from flying that far.
And then Devin.
Hi, Devin.
And I think that is it for now.
Okay, well, what we're going to read tonight is Magic Treehouse. Really? Oh, by the way, the wizard is doing some very close examination to some other books that he thinks might have the same type of mystical magic, fun, and interest. But we're trying to just do all kinds of things different because we just want to do better. So we'll see what happens, but I just want to tell you, don't think things won't change with us, because they will. So please go subscribe if you haven't to both YouTube pages. If you're not following us on TikTok, please do. And with that, Magic Treehouse, number 29, Earthquake in the Early Morning. Ooh. This is the first time I read this book was quite a while ago. And it was a good one because one of the things I like about Magic Treehouse, if everybody hasn't picked up on, is it covers interesting things in history. And that's something we should all work on, is getting to be the very best we can be at knowing the actual history of the United States and how we grew to be who we are and how we grew to be where we're at. That's good. Magic Treehouse puts us in a fictional, fun way. And that's what I like. So I want everybody to understand. Use your imagination, but then try to put everything in today's world. There was just a series of earthquakes in Japan and all over the place because in the Atlantic, in the Pacific Rim of Fire, that's where all the volcanoes, not all of them, a lot of them, that's where they're from. That's Hawaii and all that. So this is, obviously, we're going to deal with an earthquake let's find out how they deal with it. Now remember, they're they're out trying to get a a special kind of writing for Morgan Le Fay because she needs help at Camelot. And that's what Jack and Annie are doing. Is they're now going on. Well, they hope anyways. Let's see. Let's start. Jack sat up in bed. He stared out his window. The sky was dark gray. The sun would be rising soon. Oh, that's what they like. It's almost time, he whispered to himself. See, they're excited. Think about it, kiddos. If you knew you were going to go into the frog woods and you were going to go into time and space and have fun, wouldn't that be exciting? The day before, in the magic treehouse, Morgan's note had said, "Come back tomorrow in the early morning." Jack jumped out of his bed and put on his jeans and t-shirt. Then he grabbed on his backpack and crept out into the hall. Because remember, when they left Frog Creek, no time would be passed. It would be like, if they were gone a whole day, it'd be like minutes. Jack peeked into Annie's room, but she wasn't there. He slipped downstairs and out the front door. Annie, as always, was sitting on the porch step. Jack sat down beside her. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I was waiting for the birds to start singing," said Annie. "Then I was going to wake you up." Jack and Annie watched the sky go from dark gray to light gray, and then the birds began to sing. "Tweet, tweet, tweet," said Annie. Without another word, Jack and Annie left their porch. They headed up the street to the Frog Creek woods. It was cool beneath the trees, and Jack and Annie hurried through the woods to the rope ladder. Have you ever been out in the woods before the sun's up bright? Can you feel that coldness, kiddos? Yeah. It hung from the tallest oak tree. At the top of the oak tree was the magic treehouse. They climbed up into the treehouse, and it was barely light inside, and Annie picked up the note lying on the floor. She held it up to the window and read aloud. "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing for my library. Something to follow, something to send, something to learn, something to lend. Thank you, Morgan." And she took a deep, Annie and Jack took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "We have our first special writing, a list from the Civil War. We have the second," said Annie, "a letter from the Revolutionary War." That was a good one, too. "We have the third," said Jack, "a poem from a pioneer schoolhouse." "Now we just need one more," said Annie. "I wonder why we have to find these special writings for Morgan's library," said Jack. "How are we going to save Camelot?" "I don't know," said Annie, "but let's get going so we can solve the mystery. Where's our research book?" They looked around the treehouse. Their Pennsylvania book, the book that always brought them home, was laying on the corner. Beside it was another book. Annie picked it up. "This is it," she said softly. She showed the book cover to Jack, and it said, "San Francisco, California, 1906. "California," said Jack. "I've always wanted to go to California." "Well, my friend, you're about ready to get your shot." "Me too," said Annie, and she laughed. "I guess I told Miss Neely the truth after all." "Yeah," said Jack, smiling. The magic tree house had taken them to a pioneer school in their last adventure, and there Annie had told the teacher, Miss Neely, that they were on their way to California. Annie pointed at the cover of the California book. "We really wish we could go there," she said. "And we know what happens." The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin faster and faster and faster. And then Jack closes his eyes. And all of a sudden, it was perfectly still. Chapter 2, Thunder Under the Ground. Is it okay to keep going, or should
We
I?
got a few people.
Okay.
We got Ireland,
Ireland. Hi, Ireland. And Hootman would think you. No, that's Scottish.
IDK,
IDK's here. Hi, IDK. Thanks.
Diet Coke,
Diet Coke.
Rob.
Rob. Oh, Rob. Hi. Hey, Rob. She's. Is it Robbie or Rob?
Just Rob.
Oh, okay. Hi, Rob.
Julian,
Hi, Julian.
Sully,
Hi, Sully.
Jordan,
Jordan.
Macy,
Macy. Hi.
Geeta,
Disa.
Geeta,
Gita.
yes,
Hi, Gita.
and Z-Line,
And V-Line?
Z-Line,
Z-Line.
yes.
Okay. Looks like we got some others on the YouTube too.
Yeah, that's Julian,
Oh, that's Julian?
yes.
Hi, Julian. Thanks, bud. Okay. Chapter 2, Thunder Under the Ground. Nice, close, said Annie. Jack opened his eyes, and Annie was wearing a blue and white dress with a big sailor collar and white stockings. Jack was wearing a brown knee-length pants, a jacket, a cap, and a tie. His backpack had become a leather bag, as it always does. It doesn't it, guys? He and Annie both wore short lace-up boots. A church bell started to ring. Ding, gong, ding, gong, gong. It rang 5 times, said Jack. It must be 5 in the morning. Yeah, said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack looked with her, and the early morning air felt fresh and cool. The treehouse had landed in a tree at the bottom of a hill. Painted wooden houses and gaslight lined a quiet cobblestone street. A trolley car moved along the tracks up the street. It rounded the top of the hill and disappeared. Tall buildings towered farther off. The sun was behind them, making pink streaks in the blue sky. Just like they were looking over at San Francisco in 1906, kiddos. Whew. Wonder why they were there. Anybody know? It's really pretty here, said Annie. It is, by the way. I've been there right where they were at. Yeah, said Jack. He opened the research book, and it said, on Wednesday, April 18th, 1906, San Francisco was the biggest city on the west coast of the United States. It had a population of 500,000 people. It was also one of the loveliest cities in the country. And it remains that even after all this. But San Francisco was, just think about it, 500,000 people back in 1906. Jack pulled out his notebook and, as always, made his notes. He wrote, San Francisco, April 18, 1906, biggest city in the West. Lovely. Oh, lovely. Isn't that nice? Let's go, Annie said impatiently. Jack looked back in the book. He wanted to learn a little more, but you know Annie. Now, said Annie. She took the book and notebook away from him and put them into his leather bag. She is bossy, and when she decides it's time to go, they go. Let's not waste any more time, Annie said, and as she was leaving the treehouse. Doing research is not wasting time, Jack called after her. But he slung his bag over the shoulder and followed Annie down the rope ladder, as always. When they had both stepped onto the grass, Jack looked around. Where to? Anywhere, said Annie. Let's just explore and see the sights. We can be tourists. Okay, said Jack, but don't forget, we have to find the writing for Morgan's library. They started up the cobblestone street, and they walked up a steep hill. The sun rose above all the tall buildings. The early light turned everything to gold, stone street lights, and the glass windows of the silent houses all turned gold. It's so quiet and peaceful, said Annie. Yeah, everyone would still be sleeping, said Jack. Suddenly, out of the quiet came a deep rumbling sound. What do you think that is? Do you think his stomach was rumbling? What's that? He said. The noise got louder. The rumbling, it sounded like it was coming from underground. earth started shaking. It started moving around. Jack and Annie were just standing there. The church bells started to go crazy and ding and dong and dong and ding. The whole street began to move. The cobblestones rolled like waves in an ocean. What's happening? Annie cried. Chimneys fell off roofs. Gas lights toppled over. Bricks crashed on the street. Get down, shouted Jack. Cover your head. Jack and Annie crouched on the ground with their arms over their heads, and all around them was rumbling and changing and crashing and breaking. Then the world grew absolutely still. The rumbling stopped. Jack and Annie raised their heads. The air was filled with dust. It's over, said Jack. That must have been an earthquake, said Annie. I think so, said Jack. I guess I should have let you do a little bit more research, Annie said. You think, Annie? Yeah, probably, said Jack, except I don't know exactly what we would have done. Yeah, I mean, if you would have known that this was the day of the San Francisco earthquake, what would you have done? Maybe head back for the tree. Jack slowly stood up and his legs felt wobbly. As he brushed off his pants, the deep rumbling came again. Louder this time than before. Jack was hurled to the ground. The earth trembled and quaked. Jack bounced against the hard cobblestone. Annie, he cried. He tried to stand but fell again. Oh no! Through the dusty air, he saw the tall buildings swaying against the sky. Roofs were caving in. Up and down the street, bricks, glasses, concrete showered down. It seemed like it was a long time before the dreadful noise and shaking finally stopped. The great shake. Should I keep going?
We do have a few people.
Okay, I'll say hi, even though it's getting exciting. Okay.
So Gwen.
Hi, Gwen.
Nano.
Hi, Nano.
Annabelle.
Hi, Annabelle.
Lizzie.
Lizzie, hi.
Fatima.
Fatima.
Sophie.
Hi, Sophie. Thanks for being here.
Ario.
Hi, Ario.
Pluto.
Pluto. Did you bring Mickey? Oh.
And Mike Off Grid.
Hey, Mike Off Grid. Hey, guys, if you guys are ever looking to buy really good deals, go to Mike's page, Mike Off Grid. He's constantly running. He's one of the good guys. If you're going to buy something, he'd be one you'd want to buy it from, okay? Other than my T-shirts and hats and stuff, of course. But other than that, Mike sells some very cool stuff, and he doesn't sell anything that's garbage. Go take a look at it. Hi, Mike. All right, let's do the great shake. A cloud of dust billowed around Jack. He could hardly breathe. He couldn't see, but he could hear Annie coughing. Jack opened his mouth to call to her, but dust filled his throat. Jack! Between coughs, Annie shouted his name. Jack! I'm here, he said hoarsely. I think I'm in trouble, she said. Uh-oh. Jack tried to stand up. He hurt all over. Oh, no. His clothes were ripped and covered with dirt. His cap was gone. Where are you, Annie? Where are you? He called. Here, said Annie. Jack started to stand, but he fell down again. His legs were like rubber. Where? He repeated. Jack cleaned his glasses and then looked around, but he still couldn't see Annie through the dust and the thick haze. I fell into the ground. Oh, no, Annie. Jack crawled in the direction of Annie's voice. Keep talking, he said, something you never almost ever had to ask Annie to do. Here. Here. Jack felt a ledge with his hands. He looked down into a huge crack in the street. Through the dust, he could see Annie right below him. You found me, she said between coughs. I'll pull you out, said Jack, and he grabbed Annie's hands, and he tried to pull out of the crack, but she was just too heavy. I can't do it, he said. Bring me something to stand on, Annie said. Maybe I can get out by myself. Jack stood up and stumbled away from the crack, and he gathered an armload of bricks. Then he went back to the crack and hurled them down to Annie, one by one. Annie carefully stacked the bricks on top of each other. I need more, she said. Jack ran to get more bricks, and He was afraid there'd be another earthquake and the crack would close up around his sister Annie. With Annie inside, what would he have done? He handed her the bricks down to her. Boy, this had to be tense. Hurry, he said. I'm hurrying, she said. At last, Annie finished stacking the bricks. She stood on the stack, and with her bare hands, she slowly pulled herself up. Look at, I'll show you that picture. They don't show many, but see, look at, she's stuck in the ground. Well, that had to be really scary, kiddos. Jack helped her stand, and she was covered with dirt. Her stockings were torn. Her knees were skinned. Are you hurt? Said Jack. A little scraped up, said Annie. How about you? I'm a little shaky, said Jack. Actually, he was very shaky. Me too, said Annie. I think San Francisco just had a really huge earthquake. You think? Jack said. He coughed. His throat was clogged with dust. Annie was coughing too. What's the book say? She said. Oh, now she wants to know what the research book says. Jack pulled his research book out of his leather bag and his hands were trembling. He could hardly turn the pages. Kiddos, have you ever been traumatized? It's terrible when all of a sudden things go like all wrong like this. Your legs get shaky. Oh, it's terrible. I'll find it, said Annie, and she took the book and started turning the pages because Jack was just too upset, and found a picture of a torn up street, and she read aloud. At 8:15 a.m. on April, yeah, you got it, guys, 18th, 1906, the people of San Francisco were shaken awake by one of the biggest earthquakes the United States had ever known. It was called the Great Shake. Yeah, that's what I thought they called a Shake Shack over here. Oh, okay. No wonder we feel shaky, said Jack. I wonder if a lot of people got hurt, said Annie. That was a very kind thought. Annie's a very kind girl. They looked around, and through the dust-filled air, families were stumbling out of their crumbling houses. They were all barefoot and still wearing their night clothes. Some babies and small children were crying, but strangely, the grown-ups were all silent. They had just stared at the torn-up street and crumbling houses and couldn't believe what they were seeing. Everyone must be in shock, said Annie. I know how they feel, said Jack. He gazed at the rubble all around him. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't think clearly. Annie looked at the book again. She read aloud. Just after the earthquake, broken chimney stones and lamps caused terrible fires, and the fires raged for 3 days, nearly destroying all of San Francisco. Over 25,000 buildings were burned down. Now, to put that in relationship, the fires up in Washington, okay, with all the burning that they've had and through the force of stuff, they've only had, which is a lot, and I feel terrible, like 700 buildings. San Francisco lost 25,000. Oh my goodness, that's terrible, breathed Jack. In the distance, a cloud of black smoke was rolling through the sky. The fires are starting, said Annie. Whoa. What's the story? Go ahead.
Radish is here.
Oh, hi, Radish. If anybody ever wants to see the coolest hats next to mine, Radish is a great place to go check out for Halloween because it's coming up, and she's got the coolest handmade hats anybody I've ever seen. Okay.
Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
Daisy.
Hi, Daisy.
Glam.
Glam.
Yes.
Hi, Glam.
Ava.
Hi, Ava.
And Abigail.
And Abigail. What's the story? That's the next chapter. Maybe we should leave, Jack said in a panic. He wanted to get out of San Francisco before the fire spread. Good thinking, Jack. We can't, said Annie. We have to find our special writing from Morgan's library. Something to lend. Let's find it fast, said Jack. He and Annie started walking through the rubble. and they stepped over a pile of bricks, chunks of concrete, and broken glass. They passed fallen lamps and twisted trolley cars. They saw houses leaning to one side or the other, people handing the things out to the street. We can't worry about our mission now, Annie said. We have to help. Now that, my friends, is a kind young woman to think. We can't worry about us right now. We've got to help others. Help? How? Said Jack. He was so shaky he didn't think he could be much help to himself. What about them? Said Annie, and she pointed to some men frantically dragging bags out of the building and putting them into a horse-drawn wagon. Annie ran over to the wagon. What are you doing? She asked the men. We're trying to get these bank bags down to the harbor, said the wagon driver, so a boat can take them out in the bay. Why? Asked Jack. So we can save everybody's money from the fires, the man said, and he pointed at the sky. The cloud of smoke was growing bigger and bigger. Can we help? Asked Annie. We're done, said the driver. You kids run home to your parents and get out of the city. Jack wished he and Annie could ride with him, the driver, down to the bay and safe from the fires too, but he could see the wagon didn't have room for him. Good luck, said Annie. Annie's such a kind person. Don't forget what I told you, the driver said. Then he and his horses took off. The wagon turned onto the main street and disappeared over the hill. I wonder who we can help, said Annie. Jack took a very deep breath. I don't know, he said. Maybe I'll take some notes. Jack pulled out his notebook. In wobbly handwriting, I'll bet, he wrote, bank money, wagon to the bay, to put on a boat. Hey, what's the story? A woman asked. Her voice sounded urgent. Jack looked up. A man and a woman stood in front of them. The woman wore a long dress and carried a notebook. The man was in a suit, and he carried a big camera and three-legged stand. What story? Said Annie. The story with the bank. My name's Betty. I'm a reporter, said the woman. For television? Asked Annie. Oh, you're going to love the answer. What's that? Said Betty. It's 1906. There was no TV. Never mind, said Jack. He whispered quickly to Annie. She's a newspaper reporter. TV hasn't been invented yet. Oops, said Annie. So what's the story with the wagon that just left the bank? Betty asked Jack and Annie. Jack looked down at his notebook. They're going to save the money by taking it to the bay and putting it on a boat, he said. Good reporting work, Sonny, she said. Get a picture of the bank, Fred. The photographer set up his camera on the stand and he put his head under a black curtain and took a picture. Got it, said Fred. As the photographer picked up his equipment, Betty turned into Jack and Annie. Go home and get your parents, kids, she said. Fires are burning all out of control. We know, said Annie, by the end of the 3 days, the fires will have burnt down nearly all of San Francisco. Whoops, Betty looked curious. How do you know that? She asked. She's just guessing, said Jack. Pretty gloomy guess, said Betty. Tell your folks not to catch the ferry. Thousands are crowding onto the ferry building going to the Golden Gate Park. Thanks for the tip, said Annie. Thanks for the story, said Betty. Then she and Fred hurried away. Jack and Annie looked around. Now many people seemed to be fleeing their homes, and some were going up the hill. Some were going down. An old woman was pushing a wheelbarrow filled with pots and pans. A girl was carrying a suitcase and a cat. A boy was carrying a bird cage and a fishbowl. They're all going different directions, said Annie. I wonder where Golden Gate Park is, said Jack. Maybe we should go there. Let's see if there's a map in our book. Yeah, there's always a map in the book. Jack looked in the research book and he found a map of San Francisco. Where are we now? He said. As he looked for a street sign, he saw a man carrying an armload of books out of a beautiful building. The man put the books into the back of a horse-drawn wagon. What's he doing? Said Jack. I bet you he's saving those books, said Annie. Saving books, said Jack. He loved books. For a moment, Jack forgot his fears. He forgot about trying to save himself. We better help him, he said. Come on. Chapter 5. Stop.
Just a couple this time.
Okay.
Of our regulars, though.
Okay.
Parker,
Hi, Parker.
Diana,
Hi, Diana. Thanks for coming.
and Jose.
Hey, Jose. Ready? Stop. Chapter 5. Jack and Annie ran up the street to the book wagon. The man was carefully stacking the books in the back of the wagon. He was covered with dust and the glasses were all cracked. Hey, what's the story? Annie asked the man. Jack couldn't help smiling. Annie sounded just like a news reporter had sounded to them. I'm moving all the rare books to the pavilion, the man said. That's a good thinking. Can we help? Said Jack. Sure, there are only a few left by the door, said the man. Grab them, hurry. The fires on Market Street will soon be blowing this way. Jack and Annie ran to the building. Near the doors were 2 small stacks of books. Jack and Annie each grabbed up a stack, and the books looked very old and fancy. Some even had sparkling gold on their covers. Wow, whispered Jack. He and Annie carried the books outside. Careful, please, said the man. All these books are treasures, ancient Bibles, and hand-printed books. The man carefully looked at the books. Oh, see, that's what books are all about. Jack and Annie's arms and put them in the back of the wagon. Thanks, he said, pushing his hat back. Now run home now. The fires will be here soon. As the horses started up the hill, Annie waved and shouted, Good luck! I bet he was a librarian, said Jack. He opened the research book and he looked for a photograph of the building that had the books on it. Here it is, he said. People tried to save special things, but they did not always work. Rare books from a library were moved to the pavilion building. When the pavilion building caught fire, all the books burned. The building that originally held them did not burn at all. Oh, no, cried Jack. Stop! Clutching the research book, he ran after the wagon. Annie ran with him. Stop! They both yelled. They ran as fast as they could ever over the broken cobblestones and up the steep hill. Near the top, the driver finally heard him, and he brought his wagon to a halt. You can't go to the pavilion, Jack cried. You have to take the books, then back to the building where they were, said Annie. They won't burn there, said Jack, trying to catch his breath. The building you're taking them to is going to burn instead. The driver looked at Jack and Annie as if they were crazy. You kids need to worry about yourself, not these books, he said. Now you go home to your parents and I'll take care of the library. Oh, what do you think, kiddos? Then the man snapped his reins and went on over the hilltop. Come back, Jack cried. They watched helplessly as the wagon bumped down the street over the rubble and smoke billowed from the bottom of the hill. I can't believe it, Jack said. He was close to tears. Jack loved books, and they were master librarians. We tried, but we couldn't save them, said Annie. She touched Jack's shoulder gently. All those books, his voice trailed off. Hey, said Annie, someone's crying over there. Someone with 2 kids. Maybe we can help them. Chapter 6, Something to Lend. A woman in a blue bathrobe was sitting on a crumbling stone wall. She was sobbing into her handkerchief. 2 boys with dark hair sat next to the woman. The boys were dusty and torn pajamas. They were both barefoot. The younger one was watching the older boy write on a rectangular piece of wood with a chunk of coal. Annie pulled Jack over to the family. Hi, I'm Annie, she said with her bright smile. See, a smile helps, kiddos, especially if people around you are feeling really bad. Smile really helps. The 2 boys looked up. I'm Peter, said the youngest. He's my brother, Andrew, and she's our Aunt Mary. He pointed to his brother, then to the woman as he spoke. Aunt Mary tried to smile through her tears. Forgive me, she said, I'm a bit shaken up. We are too, said Annie sympathetically. The house caught fire, Peter said. We escaped, said Andrew, but we lost most of our things. We lost our shoes, said Peter. Jack and Annie looked at the boys' bare feet. They were cut and bleeding. Oh, no. They were cut and bleeding. Oh. Hey, my boots are just like your boys' boots, Annie said. One of you can wear them. Take mine too, said Jack. He and Annie started unlacing their boots. We just can't take your boots, said Andrew. Then we'll lend them to you, said Jack. He and Annie handed their boots into the two boys. Thank you, said Aunt Mary, and she started crying all over again. Two boys put their new boots. This was really a nice thing to do. Their new boots on. Then Peter whispered something to Andrew. Andrew held out a piece of wood to Jack and Annie. Here's something we can lend you, he said. Jack and Annie read a poem that the brothers had written on the piece of wood. There is no water and still less sore. We have no city, but lots of hope. Wow. Oh, I see. And there is no water and still less soap. The writing was pretty bad. We have no city, but lots of hope. Boy, kiddos, if the wizard of imagination could get you to imagine anything, it would be try to think how you would find it inside of yourself to write a poem about having hope when everything that just happened to all these kids had just happened. Think about that. It's a great gift, said Jack. We needed some hope. It's the only thing we can lend you, said Andrew. Lend, said Annie. She looked at Jack. Oh, wow. They just gave us the special writing. Something to lend. Jack smiled. They could go home now. Ooh, I bet you that didn't upset him. You should go to the Golden Gate Park. That's what a reporter told us, he said to the boys and their aunt. Is that where you're going? Asked Aunt Mary. And she had stopped crying at last and looked stronger. We have to go home to our parents, said Annie. Will you be safe? Asked the aunt. Yes, once we're home, we're safe, said Jack. Thanks for lending us your boots, said Peter. You're good friends. You've helped us more than you know, said Jack. Be careful, said Aunt Mary. We will, said Jack and Annie, and they waved to their new friends as they headed off to the park. Jack sighed. Ready? He said. Yeah, said Annie. I guess we just go back to the way we came. Jack looked down the street. Smoke billowed up from the bottom of the hill. That might not be as easy as it sounds, he said. 7. Dynamite! We'd better be careful, said Annie. They stepped in their stocking feet over the broken cobblestones, trying not to cut themselves. They headed down the hillside, and on the way, they passed the policemen carrying stretchers with injured people on them. They passed soldiers directing all these trying to escape the fires. One man was trying to push a piano down the street. That'd be a little tough, guys. Another man was wearing a bunch of hats all piled on top of one another. A woman carried her 3 little dogs in a bag. Everyone's trying to save what's important to them, said Annie. Like the librarian, said Jack, and he was trying to save this sign. He clutched the piece of wood because he said, we're trying to save this piece of wood. It was as valuable to him as any of the books at the time. Get off the street. We're setting off dynamite, he shouted. Dynamite, said Jack. Yikes, said Annie. People started running in all directions. Jack and Annie looked around wildly for a safe place to go. Jack saw an alley. There, he said. Run in the alley. They ran into the alley and crouched on the ground. Jack reached into his bag for the research book And he looked on the index for dynamite. Remember, index will tell you if you need a word, you just go to the back of it. He found it. Then he turned it to the right page. After the fire started, the mayor had an idea. He thought that if some buildings were destroyed, the sparks would not fly and onto their wooden roofs and set them on fire. He ordered some buildings to be blown up by dynamite. His plan did not work. So the firestorm raged from building to building, from street to street. Firestorm, Jack thought. The word sounded terrible. That's what's happening up in Washington. Everybody think positive for all of them. Firestorm. Jack, as he put the book away, a huge blast of dynamite shook the ground. Dust and dirt flew everywhere, even down the alley, and Jack clutched their sign with one hand, and he covered his eyes with the other. Annie did the same. Another huge blast rocked the ground. Jack tasted grit in his mouth, and he looked at Annie. She was caked with dust from head to toe. He looked down at himself. He was just as dirty as she was. Hey, would you look at these? Someone said. What now? That's a story. Jack looked up, and Betty, the newspaper reporter, and Fred, the photographer, were standing in front of them. Even though they were also covered with dirt, Fred was setting up his camera, and Betty was taking notes in the notebook. What do you think her notes were, kiddos? Hold up your sign, Sonny, said Betty. Too stunned to say anything, Jack held up the sign with the poem about hope. Fred took a picture. Another dynamite blast shook the ground. Come with us. We're headed for the park, said Betty. We can't. We're on our way home to our parents, said Annie. Well, get going and be careful, said Betty. Look, let's beat it, Fred. The photographer grabbed the camera and the equipment and ran off. The two of them rushed off. I don't think Betty and Fred recognize us, said Annie. I don't recognize us, said Jack. Another blast shook the ground. Come on, said Annie. Let's beat it. Jack and Annie jumped up. Jack put their sign in his bag. Then they started back down the hill. Wow, they still hadn't found the tree, though, did they yet? Good luck, San Francisco. Got some more to say hi to besides Miss Morticia and Jose and everybody?
Fang.
Fang. Hey, Fang.
Yes. And then Lala.
Oh, hi, Lala.
Asked, or when changing their names. Wemby.
Wemby.
Yes.
Hi, Wemby.
Wanted to know how you're healing up.
You guys really touched me with your kindness. Thank you. I'm healing up pretty good. All the black and blue's gone away. It seems like everything's working all right, except it seems like where I damaged my ribs. I'm going tomorrow for some more x-rays and stuff, but I'm sure it's just a bruise and everything we find. But hey, when you live 300 years like me, what can I tell you? I'm okay, guys. Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
Jada.
Hi, Jada.
Jada.
Oh, hi, Jada. I'm sorry. I thought it was Jada.
And then Sivas.
Sivas.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good luck, San Francisco. Jack and Annie ran over the cobblestone. Dynamite blast echoed behind them, and they headed down the hill. Flames shot down the roofs, traveling from one house to the other. We're heading right into the firestorm, Jack shouted over the noise. We have to keep going, Annie shouted, back before the treehouse catches fire. Think about that. What if the treehouse catches on fire and they can't ever get home and they're 1906 in the earthquake and oh my gosh. At the bottom of the hill, thick smoke was rolling down the hill. It made Jack's eyes burn. Where's the treehouse? He shouted. Here, said Annie. Jack followed her voice and she was holding onto the rope ladder. Good girl, Annie. It's still here, Jack said with relief. Of course, the treehouse wouldn't leave without us, said Annie. don't you? Go, go, go. Stop talking, said Jack. Annie started up the rope ladder, and Jack followed as usual. And they climbed into the treehouse and looked out the window. All around buildings were going up in flames. Black smoke seemed to be smothering the city. Jack could hardly breathe. His throat burned. His eyes were stinging. Annie grabbed her Pennsylvania book. She opened it to the picture of the Frog Creek and pointed. What was she going to do? Do you think Annie should have ever said, hey, Jack, I'm going to send us home now. Is that okay? Huh? She pointed to the page in Frog Creek and said, I wish we could go there, she said. Good luck, San Francisco. Goodbye, San Francisco, said Jack. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin around and around. It went faster and faster. Everything was still and absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. The songs of the early morning birds filled the woods. Jack opened his eyes and sighed. They were back in Frog Creek. He could breathe again. His eyes didn't sting anymore, and he was wearing his own clothes, even his sneakers. Ooh, that was good. I wonder what happened to everyone, Annie said anxiously. Andrew, Peter, and their aunt, and Betty, and Fred, and all of the other people. That's Annie. She was thinking of others. That's a core belief of kindness. Jack pulled out the research book, and he turned to the last chapter, and he read, after the earthquake fires were put out, people from all over the world sent help to San Francisco. The brave citizens of the city never gave up. Many even wore badges that said, let's rebuild at once. In less than 10 years, San Francisco was once again the loveliest city in the United States. 10 years. Great, breathed Annie. Hey, do you have our sign? Jack reached again into his backpack and he pulled out the sign from Peter and Andrew. He placed it on the floor next to the list from the Civil War, the letter with the Revolutionary War, and the slate from the Pioneer Schoolhouse. We have all 4 writings now, he said. So what happens next, said Annie. Suddenly, there was a roar. A bright light flashed through the treehouse. Jack covered his face. When he peeked over the tops of his fingers, guess who he saw, guys? It was Morgan Le Fay. Morgan! Jack and Annie cried joyfully, and they both hugged her. Morgan hugged them back. We found the 4 special writings for your library, said Jack. Annie picked up the list and the letter, and Jack picked up the slate, and the sign. Here they are, he said. They started to give everything to Morgan, but she held up her hand. Don't give them to me, she said. Someone else needs them more. Don't give them to Morgan. But she'd asked for the notes. Suddenly, another blinding light flashed through the treehouse again. There came a great roar and silence. When Jack and Annie opened their eyes, they were no longer in the magic treehouse. They were standing in a huge, shadowy room. The room smelled wonderful, like leather books and wood-burning fire. Flames crackled in the large stone hearth. Along with the walls were rows and rows and rows of tall bookcases filled with books. Welcome to my library, Morgan said. Whoa, said Jack. Someone here is waiting to meet you, said Morgan. I told him that 2 special messengers would soon arrive. Where is he? Asked Annie. Annie always got right to the point. I like that. Morgan pointed to a man dressed in dark blue in a corner of the library. He sat in a chair. His head was bowed. His hair was black, streaked with silver. He looks tired, Annie whispered. Yes, he and his knights have been defeated, Morgan said quietly. He has given up all hope for his kingdom. How can we help? Asked Annie. Morgan looked down at the special writing that Jack and Annie had held. Would it help if we showed him these? Jack asked. Morgan smiled. Come on, let's show him, said Annie. They crossed the room and knelt before the tired-looking man. Excuse me, said Annie. Well, the man looked up. He had sad gray eyes. Where are Morgan's messengers? You are Morgan's messengers? We've come to help, said Jack. The man just shook his head. I don't understand, he said in a deep, tired voice. You're children. How can you possibly help? Sometimes children can help a lot, said Annie. That a girl, Annie. Jack and I have helped a general, and we helped the wounded soldiers. We've helped people caught in an earthquake. And a twister, Jack added. The man straightened up a little. That is brave, he said. We want to share how we did it, said Annie. She held up the list from the Civil War. This tells you how to help wounded people, she said. She held up the letter from the Revolutionary War. And this tells you that even when things look their worst, you shouldn't give up, she said. Jack held up the slate from the Pioneer Schoolhouse. This says, if at first you don't succeed, try and try and try again. Then Jack held up the piece of wood from the San Francisco earthquake. And this says that when you're just lost everything, you can still have hope. The man studied the 4 special writings. Then he looked at Jack and Annie with piercing gray eyes. You were both very brave and very kind to find all these things and bring them to me, he said. Are you magic? Oh, no, said Annie. Morgan is the magic. We're just ordinary kids. The man smiled. He seemed less sad and weary. And I'm just an ordinary king, he said. Softly, I suppose, if 2 ordinary kids can find courage and hope and kindness, their ordinary king can find it too. The man slowly stood up. I will go now and speak to my knights, he said. I will share the wisdom you have brought me. He wrapped his cape around him, and he bowed to Jack and Annie. Thank you, he said. Then he strode bravely off out of Morgan's library. Yes, thank you, said Morgan, walking over to Jack and Annie. You're welcome, they said. These are for your library, said Jack. He and Annie gave Morgan the 4 special writings. Morgan smiled. Their wisdom will help many readers who come here, she said. Great, said Annie. It's time for you to go home now, said Morgan. Jack looked around Morgan's library. He hated to leave. It was the most beautiful room he had ever seen. We know how much Jack loves libraries. Don't worry, you can come back, said Morgan, reading his mind. You must come back, for you both have helped save Camelot. Goodbye for now. Before Jack or Annie could speak, there was another blinding flash. Then they were home again in the treehouse in Frog Creek in the early morning. All right, the last chapter. Do I have enough to start saying goodbye to people? Because it's
Cappy.
Happy?
Cappy.
Oh, Cappy. Hi, Cappy. Are you happy?
Morgan.
Oh, hi, Morgan. Oh, you did
Apple.
fig.
Apple.
Apple.
Brooke.
Brooke. Hi, Brooke. Thanks for coming again.
And Nico.
And Nico. All right, now, since we got a little bit of a crowd, I want to tell everybody, Saturday, remember, we're going to try to do an hour and a half to 2 hours because we're going to have Ms. Cat in the Hat. You'll never guess who that is, right? Ms. Mortician. We're going to have a Ms. Cat in the Hat. So make sure you join us Saturday, and I'll give you notices. Don't worry, like I always do, on what time, and I'll give you a reading list and all that, and probably some hints on who Ms. Cat in the Hat is. Okay, the mystery of Morgan's library. Okay, and then, by the way, with that, I'm going to say good night with all of you, because what time? Yeah, we're almost there. the mystery, of Morgan's library. I can't believe we took a trip to Morgan's library, said Annie. Jack smiled and nodded. It was incredible, wasn't it, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. A strong breeze gusted through the treehouse window. It blew upon their research book about San Francisco. Annie reached for the book. Jack, she said, look at this. She pointed to a photograph in the research book. It showed a boy and a girl covered with dirt. The boy held a sign, and it was the poem about hope. Annie read the caption. After the earthquake, like fires raged through the city, two brave children tried to give hope to others. Hey, kiddos, see the picture again? I know the picture's on real goodness, but see that? Huh? It's Jack and Annie in the picture. Remember the photographer took the picture of them holding that? Annie started laughing. Those brave children are us, she said. That's the picture Fred took of us before we left San Francisco. Jack laughed and shook his head with amazement. Annie closed the book. I guess we are two brave kids who try to give hope, she said. Wouldn't you love it if you could do that? Oh, my puzzle just got here. I swear. You know, Grandma Gloria does a program all the time that is puzzles on her phone. I'm not good at phone. Okay, wait. Jack laughed and shook his head with amazement. I guess we are two brave kids who try to help give hope, she said. We just gave some to King Arthur, didn't we? King Arthur, said Jack. Yeah, said Annie. She started down the rope ladder. That was the mystery of Morgan's library. We had to give 4 special writings to King Arthur so he could get his hope and courage back and save Camelot. That wasn't King Arthur, said Jack. He threw on his backpack and followed Annie. Sure it was, said Annie, stepping onto the ground. Didn't you hear him say, I'm just an ordinary king? Get it? King? But King Arthur's not an ordinary king, said Jack. Well, he thinks so, said Annie. I know it was him. I feel it. She smiled, and then she started through the Frog Creek woods. Jack started after her. King Arthur. As bird song filled the early morning woods, Jack thought about their visit to Morgan's library. He remembered the sad king and how their writing seemed to give him strength. Maybe Annie was right. Maybe they really had met King Arthur and helped Camelot. And maybe someday they'd go back. Hurry, Jack, Annie called, before Mom and Dad wake up. I'm coming, said Jack, and he took off after her, running for family-friendly home. Yeah, finally they were home. Can you imagine, kiddos, living through and witnessing the earthquake of the San Francisco in 1906? You ought to do some more research if this caught your attention and read all the things that happened in San Francisco after the earthquake and how they became another beautiful city. And they were today they are just beautiful. So I'm going to say to all of you, good night. It's Wednesday night. You all go to bed. The ones that have to go to school, get in quick. And remember, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have special programs. I'll be putting them, so watch my TikToks. And remember, we're simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok. I just found out today you can simulcast on Instagram too. We'll have to get other cameras. But anyways, good night, everybody, and have a good week. And know that I'll keep you posted on what's cooking, but be ready to have some more fun, okay? That's what I like to